The acrid smoke still rose from the twisted metal scattered across the barren landscape of Kepler 442b. Commander Thalara stepped carefully through the wreckage, her pale purple skin gleaming under the alien sun's harsh light. Her dark curls were pulled back in a severe military bun, and her violet eyes scanned the debris with practiced efficiency. Another human transport neutralized, she reported into her communication device, her voice carrying the cold satisfaction of a veteran warrior. The war between her people, the Zephyrians, and the human colonists had raged for 3 years now. She'd seen enough carnage to numb her heart to enemy suffering. Her boots crunched on shattered glass as she moved toward the main cabin. Standard protocol demanded she secure any intelligence materials before the cleanup crew arrived. That's when she saw it, a small leather-bound object wedged beneath a bent metal beam. Thalara pulled it free, expecting another tactical manual or star chart. Instead, she found herself holding something far more personal. The leather was worn smooth by countless hands, and the pages were filled with careful handwriting in the human's primitive script. Her translation implant activated as she opened to the first page. Day 47 of deployment. I keep thinking about Mom's apple pie. Stupid, right? Here I am, millions of miles from Earth, and all I can think about is cinnamon and her laugh when I'd sneak extra pieces. She frowned. This wasn't military intelligence. She flipped through more pages, finding sketches of constellations, pressed flowers, and more intimate thoughts. Sometimes I dream about the war ending. Not with victory or defeat, but with both sides just stopping. Imagine if we could explore these worlds together instead of fighting over them. Thalara's hands began to tremble. This wasn't the writing of a bloodthirsty invader. This was the voice of someone who seemed more lost than hostile. She read on, drawn in despite herself. Private Elias Wynne, 23rd Colonial Marines. If anyone finds this and I don't make it home, please know, I wasn't here to conquer. I just wanted to protect the people I love. The diary slipped from her fingers as something cracked inside her chest. For the first time in her decorated military career, Commander Thalara felt tears streaming down her face. That night, Thalara sat alone in her quarters, the diary hidden beneath her regulation pillow. Sleep eluded her as Elias's words echoed in her mind. She'd read only a few pages, but they haunted her like nothing ever had. Unable to resist, she retrieved the diary and opened it to where she'd left off. The next entry was dated 3 months earlier. Saw the most beautiful nebula today through the ship's observation deck. It reminded me of the northern lights Dad used to show me as a kid. I sketched it, but my drawing doesn't do it justice. Sometimes I wonder if the Zephyrians see the same beauty in the stars that we do. Thalara's breath caught. She'd been taught that humans were incapable of appreciating beauty, that they were purely destructive creatures. Yet here was proof of sensitivity, of wonder that matched her own childhood fascination with the cosmos. She turned the page to find a pressed flower, its delicate petals preserved between the sheets. The accompanying text read: Found this growing in the ruins of an old Zephyrian settlement. Even after all the destruction, life finds a way. Maybe that's what hope looks like, something fragile but persistent, blooming in the most unlikely places. Tears blurred her vision again. She remembered that settlement, her own people had abandoned it decades ago, considering it worthless. Yet this human had found beauty there, had seen potential for renewal where her kind saw only failure. The next entry was more personal. I had the dream again last night. Not the nightmares about battle, but the good one. I'm sitting by a lake somewhere peaceful, and there's someone beside me. I can't see their face, but I know they understand me. We're watching the stars together, and for once, the universe doesn't feel so lonely. Thalara closed the diary, her hands shaking. She'd had similar dreams, fantasies of companionship beyond the rigid military hierarchy. But she'd never imagined sharing such intimacy with a human. Rising from her bunk, she moved to her window, gazing out at the same stars Elias had sketched. For the first time, she wondered if her people had been wrong about everything. If this war was built on lies and misunderstanding rather than necessity. The diary represented more than one soldier's thoughts. It was a bridge between worlds, showing her that perhaps enemies could become something else entirely. 3 days passed before the Lara could bear to open the diary again. When she did, she found entries that made her pulse quicken. I keep wondering about the Zephyrian commander who killed Captain Brooks. The intelligence reports say she's called the Purple Death, but I saw her face during the battle. She looked sad. Like she didn't want to be there any more than we did. Thalara's blood ran cold. She was the Purple Death, a nickname that had once filled her with pride. But reading it through Elias's eyes, she felt only shame. If I ever met her under different circumstances, I wonder if we'd be friends. She moves like a dancer, fights like an artist. There's something beautiful about her, even in war. Her hands trembled as she read on. He'd been watching her, thinking about her, seeing beauty where others saw only death. The realization sent an unfamiliar warmth through her chest. Unable to contain her curiosity, the Lara accessed the military database. Private Elias Wynn's file appeared on her screen. Age 28, brown hair, green eyes, survived the crash with minor injuries. Current status, detained at Facility 7. He was alive. The knowledge hit her like a physical blow. She studied his photograph, a young man with kind eyes and a gentle smile. This was the face behind the words that had shattered her worldview. He looked nothing like the monsters her people had described. I wrote a letter to my sister today, but I'll never send it. How do you tell someone you love that you're not the hero they think you are? That you're just scared and confused and hoping to make it home? The Lara found herself memorizing every detail of his file. His hometown, his family, his dreams of becoming a teacher after the war. Each fact made him more real, more human, more impossible to dismiss as an enemy. That night, she made a decision that would change everything. She submitted a request to interrogate the prisoner Elias Wynn, claiming he might possess valuable intelligence about human operations. The request was approved immediately. Everyone knew the Purple Death's interrogation methods were thorough. But as the Lara prepared for the meeting, she knew she wasn't going to interrogate him. She was going to apologize. And maybe, just maybe, find a way to save them both from this senseless war. The diary had shown her that love could exist even between enemies. Now she needed to discover if it could survive the transition from page to reality. The detention facility's interrogation room was stark and cold, designed to intimidate. The Lara arrived early, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd hidden the diary in her uniform, its weight both comforting and terrifying. When the guards brought Elias in, she had to steady herself against the table. His photograph hadn't captured the warmth in his green eyes or the way he carried himself with quiet dignity despite his circumstances. Even in prisoner's clothes, he radiated the same gentleness she'd found in his writing. "Commander the Lara," he said, his voice surprisingly steady. "I've heard stories about you. I'm sure you have." She dismissed the guards with a gesture. "Sit." They faced each other across the metal table, two beings who should have been enemies but felt like something else entirely. The silence stretched between them, charged with unspoken recognition. "You're not what I expected," Elias said finally. "Neither are you." Thalara's voice was softer than she'd intended. "Tell me about Earth." The question seemed to surprise him. "Why?" "Because I want to understand." She pulled out the diary, watching his eyes widen. "I found this in the wreckage." His face flushed. "You read it?" "Every word." She leaned forward, her violet eyes intense. "You wrote about me." "I." He swallowed hard. "I wrote about a lot of things. You called me beautiful." The words hung between them like a confession. Elias met her gaze steadily. "You are. Even now, even here, you're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." The admission sent heat racing through her veins. She'd never been spoken to like this, never been seen as anything but a weapon. Your people would call you a traitor for saying that. Your people would call you the same for reading my diary with tears in your eyes. How did you know I cried? Because you're crying now. She touched her cheek, finding it wet. When had the tears started? I don't understand what's happening to me. I do. Elias reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. The touch sent electricity through her entire being. It's what I wrote about in that last entry. The one where I said I could love an enemy if they showed me their heart. Thalara's breath caught. You think I'm showing you my heart? I think you already have. His hand covered hers completely. The question is, what do we do about it? She turned her hand palm up, intertwining their fingers. The simple contact felt more intimate than anything she'd ever experienced. This is impossible. So was finding hope in a war zone, but you're holding the proof that it happened. They sat in silence, hands joined, two souls recognizing each other across an impossible divide. The war, their peoples, their duty, everything faded except the magnetic pull between them. I could help you escape, she whispered. I know. His thumb traced circles on her palm. But then what? We run away together. Abandon everything we've ever known. Yes. The word came out fierce, certain. If that's what it takes. His smile was radiant. Then I'll follow you anywhere, Commander. Even to the stars. The escape plan was simple in its desperation. The Lara would disable the facility's security grid during the night shift change, creating a 12-minute window. It wasn't much time, but it was enough. As she prepared to leave her quarters for the last time, she found herself trembling. Everything she'd built, her career, her reputation, her entire identity, she was about to throw it all away for a human she'd known for less than a week. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Elias's face, felt the warmth of his hand in hers, and knew she'd already made her choice the moment she'd read his first diary entry. The facility was quiet as she moved through the corridors. Her command code still worked, her clearance still held. Soon, both would be meaningless. Elias was waiting in his cell, fully dressed. He'd somehow sensed this was the night. Ready? She whispered as the door slid open. I've been ready since the moment you walked into that interrogation room. They moved like shadows through the empty hallways. Thalara's heart hammered as they approached the outer gate. This was it, the point of no return. The transport ship was small, built for speed rather than comfort. As they lifted off into the star-filled night, the Lara felt the weight of her old life falling away like shed skin. Where will we go? Elias asked, his hand finding hers in the pilot's seat. Somewhere beyond the war. There are worlds on the outer rim that neither of our peoples have claimed. We can build something new there. Together. She turned to face him, seeing her own wonder and fear reflected in his eyes. I love you, Elias. I don't know how it happened so fast, but I love you. I love you too. He brought her hand to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her palm. I've been falling in love with you since before I knew your name. They were criminals now, deserters, traitors to their respective causes. But as they flew toward the distant stars, the Lara felt freer than she'd ever been in her life. The diary lay open on the console between them, its pages fluttering in the artificial breeze. The final entry, written in her own hand just hours before, read. Today I learned that love is stronger than duty, that hope is more powerful than hate. We may be alone in the universe, but we're alone together. And that makes us infinite. Behind them, the war raged on. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the vast possibility of a love that had already changed everything. The stars had never looked so beautiful.